Glarry came out with some new models and asked me to check this one out. That's right, the return of Glarry. I've reviewed so many of this company's guitars. To boil it all down, typically they're a good bang for your buck, but feel free to try them out yourself. This is a sponsored review and demo, but I am giving you my own thoughts and opinions. But they just added 6 new models to their lineup, some Fender inspired, other ones other companies, but I chose this one because I thought it was new. But first impressions, F- on the packaging. I hate this styrofoam stuff. It's so hard to throw away and it's gonna splinter, but hopefully it protected the guitar okay. Because at the end of the day, that's what's most important about the shipping materials, whether they're a hassle or not. But this is what they're calling the GIZ 102 model. And at first I was like, this is kind of interesting. It's kind of like Gibson SG meets Les Paul double cut, or maybe a stripped down Ibanez Artist. So I thought this was like a brand new design of theirs, but then, nah, I did a little bit more research. This is just a knockoff of the Ibanez AX120, but you can save like $50. So that was a little bit unfortunate, but check out this sweet color. It's a nice metallic gold. Now I was thinking it was kind of going to be like a TV yellowish. That's what the website made it look like, but no, it's more of a metallic gold, which is okay, but now we're getting more ketchup mustard vibes here. But besides the golden color, as they call it, they also come in red and blue. So the blue one kind of gives you like cheap Rick Beato vibes, and then the red's kind of more SG-like. And the parent company offers all those colors too, but this straight up gold finish is slightly new because they only had like a bronze one. So let's just review this one for what it is. So far, it's a lot better than the last Glarry I've held. The action feels nice on this straight out of the box. And get this, it's a set net Glarry. That's really cool. Most of their models are bolt-ons. So if you were like me at first thinking, that's kind of expensive for what this is. I mean, it's a Glarry product, right? But no, I mean, it's actually a little bit higher quality than the other ones. I would say the weight is right about where I want it to be. It's not too heavy, not too light. I like the whole comfort carved system that they've got going on here. So far, I would say I'm very happy and impressed with this model. I like how understated the Glarry logo is too, because let's face it, they don't have the most pretty logo in the world. It kind of screams, I'm a budget guitar, so having that be a little bit smaller is definitely a nice choice. But what else comes in this box? Looks like we still are getting a gig bag. They just didn't ship it in it because they have this new foam insert, so that's a nice plus. Oh, wow. I'm impressed by this. That looks like a pretty quality cable. They used to give out cheap junk that looked like this. I mean, this almost looks like a straight up Fender cable. Yeah, it feels nice too. It's got the cloth around it. And on top of that, it's a pretty good length. Now, this particular kit doesn't come with an amp, but you're not gonna have any problems getting to your amp and walking around your room with that. But unfortunately, they have not upgraded our strap to anything special. But good if you don't have anything at all. And of course, you get a truss rod adjustment tool and a plectrum. So things are looking promising so far, but let's go ahead and throw this on the workbench to take a look at its parts and specs to learn more. Inside the Glarry GIZ, let's check it out. So as far as the pickups go, they're nothing special. They're just generic humbuckers, reeds N10 and the bridge B10-4. They feel lighter than a normal humbucker, so maybe they're not wax potted or anything. But as far as their readings, they're pretty hot. The bridge is 11.1 k ohms, the neck a little bit less at 10.4, and the middle should be around 5.3-ish. As far as the routes, if you want to modify these, any standard humbucker should fit in here. But this route is very tight. You can actually see it's a little bit uneven right here. Where they have the wire channel in here, it kind of dips down a little bit more. So to actually fit this humbucker in here, you kind of have to get it in place and really squeeze it in there. So I'm scared if you try to put a different humbucker in here, you might have to slightly enlarge that route. It just depends on the size of your pickup if you're trying to modify it. But here you can see it has a short neck tenon and they just have a little bit of a gap here. And not too much to go over here in the bridge pickup cavity. But here's a really cool spec. The body is made out of poplar. You don't see that on too many electric guitars, at least not the ones that I review and demo. So that was kind of a nice change to the specs. You can see some of the wood right here. So that's probably why this one weighs a little bit less rather than like a solid mahogany or something. So hey, if you don't have a poplar bodied guitar, here's an inexpensive way to get one. But here's kind of a no-no in my opinion. The bridge stock from the factory is decked. Now, thankfully, the action felt really good. Maybe it actually needed to be risen up. So perhaps the factory didn't set this up at all. I'll have to see when I put fresh strings on it. But here's what the bridge looks like, kind of a tune-o-matic style. But to be honest, for being all the way decked down, it still kind of sits a little bit high on it. So if you really needed to, you could probably shave a little bit off the bottom of the bridge or get a lower profile metric style one. And the exact same thing is true for the stop bar tailpiece. This was also screwed all the way down. So if you're trying to remove this, you'll actually have to raise those screws up in order to get it to come off. But nothing too special here. It is full weight. And it almost seems like the spacing is just slightly off. That's why it's so hard to get this thing back on here. Now, in your average use of that, is that ever going to affect the guitar? No, I'm just kind of letting you know that that's a real pain in the butt to get back on there. But a pro of that is it's on there when it's on there. So if you're changing strings, you don't have to worry about this thing falling off. It's kind of like Epiphone's Lock Tone series. But the body has a nice comfort cut that kind of starts right here, so your arm can rest on it. That was like one of my favorite features of this one. And obviously you get your cool yellowy gold finish. It looks pretty good. And if you take your pickguard off, this is what you're going to be left with. You got a couple of screw holes there, but you could fill that in because I think this looks pretty stellar even without a pickguard on it. And if a faux tortoiseshell isn't really your style, you could also like make a custom black one. I think that would look pretty cool on here. Kind of get some bee vibes instead of condiments. But now our controls. Here's another little gripe I have. They're not evenly spaced. It kind of bugs me because this feels really crammed. Now when you're playing it, you're just kind of reaching in between, so it's not really going to matter. But if you like to do volume swells or something and really rub your finger against the edge, it's a little bit uncomfortable if that's your style. Center to center, it's just a little bit under 2 inches, whereas this one is a little over 2 inches. So it is noticeable. They just need to pop this one over like a ½ inch, then it'd be about good. So a couple of quirks to live with for $180, but so far I'm impressed with it. But now let's talk the neck. A lot of times I'll review these Glarrys raw and naked. I don't do anything to them, I just play them. This one, I have really high hopes for it. It felt really good when I unboxed it, so I went ahead and polished these frets because they were awful from the factory. Like, they were very scratchy. But if you're a beginner, that's not really gonna matter. You're just learning chords anyways. You're not doing a whole bunch of bends and vibrato, so that's probably not going to matter unless you're a more advanced player just looking to get this as like a cheap modding potential type thing. But if you want to polish up your frets, here's what I've been using. You can get it in any automotive department. I got this at Walmart. It's just called Metal Polish Cream by Blue Magic. Basically, just get yourself a Q-tip. I do suggest wearing gloves with this. Splatter it across the frets and then go to town with some elbow grease with paper towels and just start rubbing each fret. It helps my hand to use like a sanding block or something. Just make sure you have enough paper towel on it. That way you don't cramp your hand up. I'm sure the first time you do it, it'll probably take you about an hour. It's very time consuming, but at the end of the day, if you really want to play this thing, it's going to make these feel a lot better. The stock strings on this one were even worse than normal, so I would also suggest changing those. You can go to any guitar store for these. If you're brand new to guitar, generally you're going to want to start with a 9-gauge set. When we're talking gauges, that's how thick it is. So most people start with 9s, they work their way up to 10s, then they decide they want to go down to like 8s, and then some people go even heavier if they drop tune. But if you just tell the employee, I need some 9-gauge strings, they'll know what you're talking about. Then the other thing I did was use this Dunlop 65 lemon oil. It's not really lemon oil, but it's a fretboard conditioner. That's going to make it feel a little bit nicer too. So this has had all the works done to it. So this is not how it comes stock from the factory, but I have not done any like level and recrowning. This has 22 what I would consider similar to medium jumbo frets. They've got some good meat to them, and it's an Indian Laurel fretboard. So that's a rosewood alternative. It looks all right once you condition it though, and you have acrylic block inlays. The scale length is 24 3/4 inches. And then the fretboard radius is interesting. It's 9.5. So it's like going after Fender's fretboard radius, but Gibson's scale length. As far as neck specs, it's 1.7 inches at the nut. I was happy to see that they are including a bone nut on these stock from the factory. The 12th fret increases to 2.06, so a pretty standard width. There's a first fret neck depth of 0.89 inches. And then it pretty much stays consistent. That's a strange neck. They called it a C shape on the website, which that's definitely accurate. Huh, that's strange. It doesn't get any bigger. Most guitar necks, they start off a little smaller and then they get a little bit chunkier up here, but that one's very consistent. Here's the neck at the first fret and the 12th fret. It goes from a really rounded C to a flatter C. So even though it doesn't necessarily get thicker, it definitely changes shape a tad. As far as the headstock goes, it's open book style. 3 on a side tuners. I did have to tighten these tuners. They were like obnoxiously loose, which made them feel cheaper than they really are. And to do that, you just have a screw right here. You just got to tighten it. Then if you have a wrench, it does help to tighten these down. Now don't go too crazy, just hand tight plus like half a turn or something. Then if your neck has a bow, you can use the truss rod tool in this area. Well, this one's pretty straight out of the box. Putting the new strings on, I had this bright idea. Why don't I try top wrapping this? I haven't done that in a while. If you like to top wrap your tailpiece, this is not the guitar for you. You literally cannot do it because there's just not enough pressure on the saddles. They'll just start buzzing, but as soon as you do it your normal way, everything's good. Or if you swap to a different tailpiece, because that's what's strange about this one. It's got the stud in the body, but then it's got like an extra part right there that just prevents the bridge from being all the way down. I mean, this is decked. That's as far down as it goes, and it should still have some travel room. Oh, and I painted the pickguard. I don't think the paint's gonna stay on it, but it gives you an idea. Yeah, that looks very nice. There we go, much better. You can still hear a little bit of a rattle, but it doesn't create the sitar-like guitar tone anymore. But even after polishing these frets, unfortunately, they're still kind of scratchy. That's still a lot better than it was stock from the factory. So that's about it for the front. Let's go ahead and flip it over to the back side. On the back, you can see some more of the contouring on the edges. Just kind of makes it a nice shapely guitar. And then our control cavity looks like this. You've got tons of room to do modifications if you wish. Stock from the factory, you just have these cheapy little pots. Do they feel the best? No, but they appear to function. Got a strap button down here and one on the horn. Then moving up the back side of the neck, not too much more to talk about here. These tuners don't feel the best, but they do function. So once again, you get what you pay for. At the price point so far, this might be my new favorite Glarry. We need to definitely plug it in before I give it that title though. All said and done, it weighs 7 pounds, 5.3 ounces. Let's go ahead, plug it in, and hear its tones. So far, I think the clean tones are actually really impressive on this for the price point. The neck pickup is about what you would normally expect, just nice and juicy. But what I found really surprising about this whole setup is the bridge pickup. It's still bitey like normal, but it almost has a little bit of a telly snarl to it. Like it's not as bright. It has a little bit more of a rounded honky-tonk tone to it. So I'm looking forward to hearing that with some distortion. And the middle just obviously has a little bit of both of that. Now that we know all about Glarry's new guitar, what are my final thoughts on this thing? Yeah, I think it's safe to say this is my new favorite Glarry guitar because it's set neck, it's got humbuckers, it's very similar to what I'm used to playing. Now, are there a few gremlins that we discovered on the workbench? Like, yeah, maybe you could have better hardware on this thing. And some nicer tuners wouldn't hurt either. But once I just started to play this and, stop nitpicking the guitar, I guess you could say, this felt like a really quality product. So to be able to get this for like $180, that's pretty good. But you also might check out the parent brand if that's more your style too. Unfortunately, my black paint did not stay on the pick guard, but that's all right. So if you were considering buying one of these, I would highly suggest giving it a shot. And I've reviewed almost every Glarry, and if I hate the guitar, I'm not scared to tell you. This is one I would suggest. So if you're interested in one of these, you can use my affiliate link in the description if you're gonna get one anyways. But if not, we will catch you guys tomorrow on the next episode. Take care.